was more powerful than the statistics or any of that stuff.
On average, 5,000 kids a year commit suicide in America, and most parents never know exactly why. I wanted to find out why Donald Hooten is so sure that the answer could be as simple as steroids. How you doing?
Fine.
Chris Bell.
Don Hooten, nice to meet you. This is a very, very competitive community, all the way from athletics to business. So you wind up in an affluent area where these kids can afford to play with this stuff. And of course, in hindsight, as we look back, all of the signs were staring us in the face. The behavior problems, the physical changes, but we had no idea what we were looking at. If we go back to the medical textbook, you know, the depression that comes along with steroid use is bad, but it's worse in that 4 to 6 week period following stopping using this stuff. And it was during that period that his mother found him hanging on the door in his bedroom.
Taylor Hooten's dad, Don Hooten, called me shortly after Taylor had taken his life.
Together, we came up with the idea of creating a private organization
to educate the public about the dangers of anabolic steroid abuse.
This is Taylor's room. You don't have to come in here long to realize Taylor was a baseball player. I guess he started maybe 5 years old in t-ball, but Taylor was a great kid. We took Taylor to a psychiatrist, and she put him on a low dose of Lexapro. And as far as I know, this is the only steroid-related case that this well-meaning psychiatrist had ever had. And when the psychiatrist recommended that Taylor go cold turkey and stop using steroids, it was a formula for disaster.
Well, I feel terrible, obviously, about Taylor Hooten, but Taylor Hooten had a lot of problems, and he was on other drugs. According to some newspaper accounts, he was on SSRIs, antidepressants, which have been shown to be associated with suicidal ideation and suicidal behavior. So whether his suicide was due to Lexapro, or due to steroids, or due to depression, or due to stress of being a great athlete, or 5 other things, I don't know.
Do you think that perhaps, you know, when I look on the on your website for the Taylor Hooten Foundation, do you think it's a responsibility to include antidepressants in there just in case there are critics, or just to raise the awareness of how dangerous perhaps antidepressants may be?
No, I don't, and the reason is our battle's not with antidepressants. Our battle's with steroids.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse said the dangers of anabolic steroids are temporary and reversible.
My son is dead. All of the intellectual arguments about whether or not steroids are dangerous or not don't matter to me. I know they're dangerous. I saw it with my own eyes, and I watched my son die. The only evidence I need is the pictures of my son that are on the wall behind you.
Look, I have a son too, and the last thing in the world I could ever imagine doing is burying that kid. And it would probably ruin me for the rest of my life. And I could see where having a cause to sort of assuage the feelings of guilt and depression that are following my son's death would probably be, you know, helpful. Let's not let this happen to somebody else. But they're chasing the wrong thing. They're not doing it right.
We're working with Major League Baseball to make that happen now, where, you know, hopefully in each local stadium there's going to be a steroids awareness night.
Do you find it ironic at all to have a steroid awareness night for baseball in a stadium that sells alcohol, which is responsible for a lot of deaths, is a drug?
Alcohol's legal to sell, and we can argue all day long whether tobacco kills and whether alcohol kills, and there's a clear distinction in my mind between tobacco or alcohol and steroids and methamphetamines and coke.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
All right,
I know how hard it could be and everything, and
this is important stuff.
Anybody who asks me about it, I let them know. I tell them why. I tell them, you know, how much I take. I'll tell them anything they want to ask me about them.
What about the kids?
The kids are different because a couple kids asked me in front of the whole group, and I had to lie about it because this whole steroid thing is just out of hand.
I know Coach Bell doesn't take any steroids. He's just 100% strong. I think somebody asked if he was ever on steroids, and he said no, and I completely believe him. He just teaches that steroids are basically, there's a cheap way out of doing hard work.
I say they're not for kids. Steroids are not for kids. That's plain and simple. You should achieve some things naturally, and then maybe you should think about them when you're, you know, an adult.
The main reason why I don't take steroids is because he got into my head that I don't need them, that I got the potential right now as a teenager to get as strong as I want.
What good would it do them to know that I take steroids? It wouldn't do them any good. They'd just be like, oh man, he's a cheater.
Would you ever tell our parents that you do it?
I mean, you know, if they ask me.
I only cook 2 pounds. I hope it's enough.
You know, we went to church all the time. I grew up in a great family. I don't think I could ask for anybody better to be parents, you know. And when I went to USC, I didn't do any drugs. I didn't do anything. So like,
you're a good boy.
And then I got to a point where I actually tried steroids. I tried Winstrol, which is injections.
You injected a needle in yourself?
It's just in the muscle.
Yeah, because you get to a point where you're like, I'm kind of getting out of shape. I don't feel like I used to. The reason I stopped doing it was because I thought it was immoral. I thought it was so wrong, and like, what if my parents found out I did this?
I think it's really hard to hear that you tried them and everything, but
For you. It's not hard for me.
what I'm saying is that it's hard to hear it. And what about Mark? I mean, how come you're staying big but you're not getting fat? Like, you're just all...
I'm getting fatter.
No, your face is rounder than normally.
I put on body fat.
You're about 7 or 8% higher than you normally are, wouldn't you say, for how much heavier you are?
I have no idea. I don't really care either.
He's already married. He doesn't care.
Except Smelly's not saying anything. Don't let your brothers overrun your conversation.
When you get caught with something, I think the truth is always the fastest way out of the situation. But it's not always the best way out.
You know, she's concerned, just being a mom, and she's just trying to, you know, leave it open where I could say, yeah, you know what, I do them, and this is why, and I think that's what she's looking for. But she still never directly asked me, so until that time comes, I ain't saying nothing.
People have a tendency to cheat at everything, and that happens with taxes too, just like it could with steroids or any other thing. It's human nature, you know, it's the sinful nature of man.
My dad convinced Mad Dog and his wife to settle down in Poughkeepsie, and he's been doing income taxes for the same guys he used to wrestle with.
I keep a couple things around, not too much. Big John always keeps it real. This just says, to Mad Dog, thanks for everything.
Not exactly how he thought his life would turn out.
I get up, I go to the office, I make money for them, I make money for me. I got a great wife, I got a great family. But I wanted to be a famous wrestler, and I wanted to live the life. I wanted to be on the road, traveling, meeting people, making money, having fun, living the life.
He'll break down and he'll be crying and he'll say, like, Dad, the biggest fear I ever had in my life is being average Joe, and I'm 36 years old, and that's all I can see for myself.
What do you want to do now? Like, where do you see yourself going?
I mean, the immediate goal is to, get out of Poughkeepsie, move to California, establish my name, and, and then start my own business eventually.
Seemed like he was